Every day, the media bombards us with images of war. Soldiers exposed to the harsh realities of life in a war zone.
All call flyers, this is Bobby 30 seconds to control detonation. Out.
As young Australians, our perception of life in the armed forces is one of hardship, danger, and sacrifice.
I know that there's a lot more that goes on than what we see in the media, and it shouldn't really be portrayed as such a good thing, I guess.
We can't help but be influenced by what we see on television.
You get those two extremes, so it's kind of, you don't get no middle ground.
It's kind of glamorised, so I'd end up not really knowing much about war.
Sometimes I get the feeling that they're putting a spin on it.
While the media informs our opinions, we are rarely provided a first-hand insight into the reality of life of an Australian soldier serving in a war-torn country. We sat down with local serviceman Chris Botel to learn about his experience of deployment with the Australian Army.
So I've been employed by Defence for the last just shy of 6 years. I've done 2 trips to Afghanistan, both 6 months long, one with MTF-1 2010 and one MTF-4 in 2012. Both times employed as a high researcher.
Australia's involvement in the war is often in the media. What do you think about the portrayal of war in the media? Would you say it's accurate?
I think the media portrays what will sell. In my experiences, what they try to tell may not necessarily be false, but it's never 100% of the truth.
Do you think it's necessary for Australians to be involved in conflicts abroad?
Definitely. Yeah. Right. If we want to contribute on the world scale, we need to be there for the good and the bad.
And do you believe that the work of the Australian soldiers has had a positive impact on the situation?
We were taking out contractors whose job it was to build schools, build hospitals, and just help increase the infrastructure of the government and the population. So I think we've definitely had a positive impact on the country and started giving them the means to look after themselves.
Obviously, being in the armed forces, you would have been placed in a lot of difficult situations and have experienced some tough events. What was probably your hardest part about serving in Afghanistan?
The hardest period was probably during my first trip when Snowy and Smithy got crumped. That was pretty real, because it was sort of, they were doing the same job I was. I was actually on a patrol base just down from them, and I can still see the actual explosion. Because we heard it go up, and then I jumped up on the hill and you could actually see it going off. At the time, we just thought we'd had bad comms and had missed it. And then we found out later that day that the boys had died.
How did you find the transition back into everyday life after deployment?
The first time was, I wouldn't say rocky, but it's definitely a different environment. You go from such a high tempo environment, and if something has to be done, it has to be done yesterday. To where things back here are generally a lot more chilled. If you go down the shops and everyone's just doing their thing, to where as opposed to everyone just having a purpose and just constantly on the go. It was definitely, I wouldn't say difficult, but it was interesting.
It's clear that there is more to the life of an Australian soldier and the realities of deployment than what we see in the media. While debates surrounding Australians' involvement in international conflicts will continue, it's important we stop to remember the individual men and women who fight to protect our freedom.